Well. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, I should also say, from wherever you are joining us from today. On behalf of the Robert H. Lee Graduate School, we want to welcome all of you to today's Fireside chat with Novar Technologies. We are excited to have not just one, but two of our entrepreneurial alumni joining us today in what I'm sure is going to be an informative session. My name is Rodrigo Porto, and I am the Director of Recruitment Admissions for the Graduate School. I'm also excited that today marks our first RHL event of the new admission cycle, and we are really glad to have everyone here with us today. We have an exciting lineup and an event planned for you, so you can learn about our programs and meet our guests. But before we do that and start and jump into our event today, I want to do a land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that UBC's Vancouver Point Grey campus is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. We would also like to acknowledge that you are all joining us today from many places, near and far, and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. During your time at UBC, you will hear this quite often. As you start your journey with us, we hope that you also take some time to learn about the history of our lands. I hope that you are also coming to understand the relationship with the Musqueam and Indigenous peoples of Canada. Now let's go to our agenda today. We're going to start things off with a quick overview of the RHL, the Robert H. Lee Graduate School programs. I'm sure we all know that you probably have done a bit of research into our programs already, so we're going to keep this short and we're going to mostly cover some of our key features. We will then delve into a fireside chat of sorts with Soroush and Melissa, our two alumni guests, and we've prepared a few questions to warm you up and make sure that you're taking lots of value from the conversation and their insights. However, what we and they really want to hear are your questions. So we will also be taking questions from the audience, and you can fill those in, and my colleagues are going to give you some instructions where to and the right timing. Then at the end of our event, you have a chance to ask our admissions and program related questions to the team that's all here together to support you and make sure that you get the most value out of our events. Speaking of which, I want to share with you who are some of my RHL colleagues who are in the room today. So I've introduced myself. We also have Vivian, who oversees our full-time MBA and professional MBA, Kevin, who oversees our Masters of Management, the BMM dual degree, and who is also helping us with the full-time MBA program, and Natalie, who takes care of the Masters of Business Analytics and the MBA plus MBA dual degree. So we are here to help you and ensure that you have a great event. With all of that, I'm going to pass the virtual microphone to my colleague, Natalie. Natalie, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you all this morning, this afternoon, or this evening. I'd like to start off with an overview of our program. So let's start off with our signature program, our MBA. Our MBA runs for 16 months. And during this time, you'll develop your business skills, advance or pivot your career, master managerial skills, or even start your own business, all while leveraging the program's global immersion experiences, paid internships, research and entrepreneurial projects. You can also take advantage of the fact that UBC is the only Canadian school that's part of a global network of advanced management, which is spearheaded by Yale Business School. And this network really enables you to take courses and modules from over 30 other highly ranked, highly recognized globally. And our partnership with Yale also enables you to take advantage of the dual degree program, wherein you can add 6 months to your solder MBA and also gain a master's of advanced management from Yale University. Our professional MBA is similar to our MBA in many ways. However, the program structure is intended for full-time working professionals, so you can maintain your full-time career while earning your MBA by attending classes every other weekend, in addition to 3 professional residencies. The program duration is 24 months and enables you to consistently apply everything you've learned on the weekends into your role and in the boardroom on the weekdays. Our specialty master's programs include our Master's in Business Analytics, our BMM, and our Master's of Management. The Master's in Business Analytics is a 12-month program. It's equal parts data analysis and big picture business decision making. This program really helps you bridge these two worlds, making students an effective translator between the world of data, tech, and business. The curriculum covers everything from marketing to operations, in addition to advanced analytics, so that students will be able to interpret data within a broader business context. The program includes an internship component, which enables students to gain hands-on experience as a business analyst. The 9-month Master's in Management is for university newly grads with non-business graduate degrees. So whether your degree is anything between math to music, this is an opportunity to really gain those business skills to impress today's employers and gain an edge in a competitive job market. And this program also includes a 3-month community business project where you'll be able to apply your newly acquired business skills by working on a live business project for a not-for-profit or a charitable organization so that you can add valuable consulting experience to your resume while making a difference in the community. We also have a variety of dual degree options. And what's great about the dual degree options is that this gives you an opportunity to study 2 academic fields at once, earning 2 separate degrees. So with the BMM, you can combine a bachelor's degree in a non-business faculty with a Master of Management in just 4.5 years. With the MBA plus MBAN, this is one of our newly launched programs. It's designed from our 2 top ranking programs, and it allows you to set yourself apart by gaining expertise in the field of business within a global business context and the field of business analytics. Our JD MBA, this is where the practice of law meets the practical application of business so that you can understand law from the perspective of a business person and so that you can understand business from the perspective of a lawyer. So this will really make you ready, able to succeed in the global economies where the ability to navigate the complexities of both law and business is key. One thing I also really want to highlight is Sauder's Business Career Center. So as a student and alumni at Sauder, one of the key resources that you gain access to is the Hari B. Varshni Business Career Center. This is where you will gain access to career development programming, one-on-one career coaching, mentorship programs, employer connections, and a worldwide alumni network. Fast approaching are some of our program deadlines. So I wanted to highlight some of those today. So we have our final professional MBA deadline coming up pretty quick on October 5th. Our daytime programs. For a full-time MBA deadline, we also have that initial deadline coming up on October 5th as well. And for our Master's in Business Analytic, we have a domestic students initial deadline coming up on that very same date. So keep October 5th in mind because lots happening on that day. And our first official deadlines for our specialty master's programs are towards the end of October on October 26th. So the Master's in Business Analytics, as well as the Master's in Management, first official deadline is at the end of October. And although our final deadlines for our full-time daytime programs aren't until the spring of next year, so you'll see there's various dates of final deadlines in the spring. There are various regional scholarships and awards tied to earlier application deadlines, this being primarily our first deadline. And while we also have a variety of general graduate school scholarships and awards that are offered year-round. So yes, scholarship opportunities, we have them year-round, but you can definitely leverage more opportunities with our earlier deadlines. So that's a quick overview and recap of our business programs, as well as a glance into some of our upcoming deadlines. So make sure you're leveraging each program's recruitment teams and admissions managers to help support you in putting your best foot forward for your applications for the cycle ahead. So you'll actually have the opportunity to connect with some of the program managers at the later end of today's session, but you can also definitely book some advising sessions with us by going to our info sessions page on our website. Thanks, everyone. And with that, I'm handing things over to Kevin.
Great. Thank you so much, Natalie. So just a bit of webinar etiquette today. We do encourage you to ask your questions to our guests. Please make sure that you put your questions in the Q&A box throughout our session. Okay, so questions for the Q&A sections should definitely be typed, obviously, in the Q&A box. And then we, as moderators, Vivian and myself, will get through to them and be able to ask them during the event. Now, if you do have questions about the actual program itself, you'll want to make sure to save that until our breakout rooms at the end of the event. Each of the managers that you've been introduced to today will go into our separate breakout rooms, and you can ask your questions about admissions, anything to do with the program. But anything to do about our guests and their journey, we welcome those questions in the Q&A box. So why don't we move on to the next slide so I can introduce Novar Technologies. So Novar Technologies is really the definition of a homegrown success. It is a Vancouver-based full-stack robotics company, and it was founded in 2013. The company specializes in the design and commercialization of cobots, or collaborative robots, and AI systems for robotic welding applications. And their spool welding robot is the world's first of its kind in pipe welding applications. Now, besides their incredible innovation, Novarc Technologies is also being recognized for its tremendous growth. Recently, it was named to the Globe and Mail's top growing companies in Canada for the second year in a row. And put it another way, Novarc has seen a 3-year growth of 1,024%. And no, that's not a typo, it's 1,024%. In 2020, despite COVID-19, Novarc was also named to Rocket Builder's Ready to Rocket list, which recognizes revenue growth leaders of tomorrow in BC's tech sector. And that's why today we are so excited to have with us not just one, but 2 amazing business leaders and also 2 alumni from our graduate school. So just to give a bit of a quick intro, we have in the room today Soroush Karimzadeh, who is the CEO and co-founder of Novar Technologies. Soroush has over 15 years of experience in the commercialization and product development of industrial automation, focusing on collaborative robotics, machine vision, machine learning, and welding. And besides his MBA from UBC Sauder, Soroush is also a Master of Applied Science in Electrical Engineering from UBC, and also a CFA charter holder. We also have in the room today Melissa Bayanzadeh, who is a Director of Marketing at Novarc. And before her MBA with UBC Sauder, Melissa started her career as a chemical engineer in the pharmaceutical industry after graduating with her bachelor in chemical and biological engineering. She also co-founded Pet Remedies Pharmaceuticals, which provides medications for animal hospitals in BC. And after completing her MBA, she pursued marketing in software and technology with Evident Point Software before becoming Novarc's Director of Marketing. So everyone, if you could please give a virtual round of applause to Soroush and Melissa, that would be greatly appreciated. So Soroush and Melissa, welcome to the event today.
Thanks for having us, Kevin.
Wonderful. Great. So, while we wait for questions to come into the Q&A, and I know that they're already starting to flood in, why don't we start with our first question, and I'll direct that over to you, Soroush. Soroush, can you please give us a background into how you started Novar Technologies?
Absolutely, Kevin. Yep. So we started in 2013 by identifying an opportunity in the welding market, which we thought it was underserved. So customers wanted to automate the pipe welding process, and there was no solution available in the market that could kind of meet the requirements. starting from that problem statement, then we got to the drawing board and came up with different solutions that could meet those requirements. We, of course, iterated a few times on the product because it was a new way of doing things. It was a new product, something that has never been done before. Think of it as a first. I mean, it's maybe not in the scale of analogy, but it's a first iPhone. It's a new way of doing something, and that's why there was a lot of complications around it. And we spent a few years really figuring out what that solution would look like before we launched the product in 2017. But really, the background is working directly with the customers, identifying their need and their requirements, and then starting from that point and coming up with a solution that would meet their requirements.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I'll pass it off the next question to my colleague, Vivian.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Kevin, and thanks so much, Soroush, for telling us the origin story of Novarc. Melissa, I have a question for you. What drew you to work for at Novarc Technologies?
Yeah, for sure. So as Kevin mentioned, my background was actually in chemical engineering, so I didn't have a lot of experience in the tech sector. And was actually introduced to the tech industry during my MBA because I did an internship at a software company. I was a marketing manager for a software company, and I was really interested in that sector. So after graduating, I started looking for jobs in the tech space. I kind of changed my career path. And that's when I came across Novarc. And at that point, what Novarc was doing was super interesting to me. So they had this brand new product that would semi-automate the pipe welding, something that's been done manually for decades. And it was really changing the face of pipe welding and pipe fabrication. And what they were doing is that, so on a lot of these like shops, you see robots replacing human operators and welders. But what Novarc was doing was to actually developing a cobot, a collaborating robot that would work alongside a human welder, and they would put the welder in a safe environment where they're not exposed to UV light, carcinogenic fumes and heat. So, and they would just look at a screen and weld using a pendant, like a video game. So it was super cool and interesting. So that was kind of the reason why I joined the company. I really believed in it, and it's been a really exciting journey. I mean, we've been growing so quickly, and we have customers from the top construction companies in the world to Fortune 500 companies. So it's been really, really exciting.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Melissa. That is so amazing. Like just thinking about like the safety element of it, and I mean, like it's not really a game, but like it's helping you to avoid exposure to dangerous elements, but also just like the intersection of manufacturing and technology in that aspect is really interesting. So thanks so much for telling us a little bit more about Novarc and your motivations for joining.
Absolutely.
Great. And speaking of motivations, I do have the next question. And I'd love to ask this because both of you actually did your A degree, at least one degree at UBC. So maybe I'll ask Soroush first and then we'll go to Melissa. What compelled you to come back and do your MBA or A degree at the Robert H. Lee Graduate School?
Absolutely, Kevin. So I finished my Master of Applied Science at UBC, and then I started working for a couple of years in different industries and industrial automation. But from when I started working, I wanted to really do my MBA and learn and really augment my skills. So, and the reason I joined UBC was that Sauder was a recognized school, and it was also the nice thing. I mean, I did the part-time program, and that's something that might be of interest to your audience. The nice thing about the part-time program was that I could keep my full-time job and build my work experience. At the same time, I could be doing the part-time program with UBC. So, at that time I was working in Vancouver. Sauder was a great school, so I applied, and the rest of it is history. So.
Great. Thanks so much, Soroush. We have some questions coming from the audience. Sean's asking. Oh, yes.
Do you think maybe we could get Melissa to talk about?
Oh, so sorry.
Why you chose the graduate school? Melissa, would you like to tell us that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, ever since I graduated from UBC, I knew that I wanted to do my master's at UBC as well. I mean, the campus is just so beautiful. It's so nice. But when I actually started doing researching on MBA programs, first of all, I noticed that Sauder is one of the top schools in Canada and in North America, actually. And something that really stood out to me was that whole international experience. So I knew what the program was offering was to really like exposing the students to the whole international experience. So we would get to go to another country, work on projects with different companies in foreign countries. So that was something that was really interesting to me. And in addition to that, the whole like class dynamic, having students from all over the world with different experiences. I mean, you learn a lot from those things. That's something that I was really looking forward to, and it's something that I got out of the program.
Great. Maybe if I have a quick follow-up before we go over to an audience question. Melissa, do you remember, where your global immersion experience was and what sort of projects you got to work on? If you can tell us.
Yeah, that's the highlight of the program for me. My global immersion experience was in Chile. So we got to work with, Findbox. That was a company, it was a logistics company. So we got to work on a project with them for about 2 weeks. So yeah, we worked really closely with the founder and other members of the company. And it was an amazing experience just to get exposed to that, see how business is done in a foreign country. And it was just very valuable.
Great, thank you. And you know what, we're actually dying to have our audience ask you questions, and there's quite a few that have come in. Vivian, why don't you pick the first one?
Yeah, so the first question we have here came in from Sean, and he's asking, for both of you, how did you finance the company as you were developing the technology?
Maybe I can go first on this one. It was a mix of different funding sources at different stages. Of course, you start from with the founders and then family and friends, and then you later stage would be angel investors. And then later on, we got strategic investors that helped us build the company over the last 6-7 years, I would say.
And I guess maybe like related to this, if you either of you want to speak on this, what was the journey to get funding/investor buy-in?
It's a long process. I'm not going to lie. It takes time to do fundraising. And you got to have your ducks in a row. But the good news is that this has been done by many people and many companies in the past. So there are definitely best practices on how to do fundraising for different stages. And to be honest with you, this is 2021 is a record year for fundraising. It's never been as good as it has been this year, or for the last 5 years. I would say there's more and more investors that are looking at small cap private companies and trying to find the alpha. And that definitely tech sector has a lot of those companies, those gems for investors. And it's just a matter of now on the entrepreneur side, it's a matter of course, building the company and being able to tell the story of why you're going to be building that, but your big vision that you have in your mind.
That's great. There's a question here that came specifically from Melissa, and it's from Kelly. So Kelly's asking, Melissa, how did you find your transition into a marketing role, especially being new to the tech industry?
I think the program really helped with that. So when I actually did my MBA, or when I started doing the MBA, I had no intentions of going into marketing. I was going to pursue the entrepreneurial path, and I co-founded a company before, so I wanted to go back and grow it. But after while I was doing the MBA, I had some amazing instructors and courses. Like one instructor was Tim Silk. I don't know if he's still there, but
Yes.
He was literally the reason that I switched into marketing. So I was super interested in it. And then when I did my internship, they helped me really closely with delivering those projects for the internship and mentored me through that process. So it was really helpful. And that kind of helped me move to my next career as a marketing manager at the same software company that I had an internship in. And after I had that experience, I kind of transitioned into a full-time position with Novarc. So I would say that the program helped me a lot. And also you need to do a lot of, especially with marketing, you need to stay up to date every month after you graduate, like on the new best practices, all the new trends, the new conferences. So that's something that I've been doing every month, like even on my own time, always listening to podcasts when I'm driving to work or online conferences, just to make sure that I'm aware of all these new practices, especially in digital marketing.
Thanks, Melissa.
That's so cool. I mean, I think if you are listening to stuff about the industry and about work on your way to work, that means you're probably in a pretty good place. You probably like what you do. So yeah, Melissa, you sort of touched a little bit on what the program kind of helped you develop. And so there was a question here for Soroush, and I think maybe I'll pass it off over to Melissa afterwards. But are there any special qualities you see in UBC students? And the question asked whether you prefer hiring alumni. Why don't I ask, when you look at hiring, is there anything that alumni bring out to you more so than maybe other candidates? And I'll probably put it to Soroush first.
Absolutely, yeah. The answer is yes, they do bring a lot. So there's two things I would say here. One is, of course, having the MBA degree. It really tells us that this person knows about different facets of the business. They know about the intricacies and the dependencies. They understand what it takes to build a business, and depending on which area they specialize in, that also gives them an edge. So that there's that MBA branding and the MBA experience and technical knowledge. But when we talk about the UBC alumni, what I like about the Soroush graduates is that and what really I think the UBC does a great job in fostering is that international aspect, having students from all around the world in one class and sharing different perspectives. The global immersion, although that was not part of the MBA program I did, I think it's a great add-on because it also gives an opportunity to the students to really go out and experience how maybe business is done in case of Melissa in Chile or India or Europe. And we are in a global economy, right? So if you're building a company in Canada or anywhere in the world, at some point you have to understand how to interact with people from other parts of the world, and that becomes a very important part of the growth. So having that edge, I think, would give, in addition to, of course, the MBA curriculum, with something that stands out to me and that UBC offers, and it's kind of unique to what UBC has, and really because I think it's a function of also the fact that UBC is in Vancouver and in British Columbia.
Great. Thank you for that. And obviously you're a man of your word because you hired Melissa, who's an alumni of the program. Melissa, would you like to comment on that, kind of what you see from candidates coming out of the program?
Yeah, I think Soroush covered it all, but on my team, for example, we hired a couple of marketing interns from UBC, and they were extremely valuable to our team. And one thing that I can comment on is that they all bring different perspectives that I think is very, very valuable. And I think, again, something that is very well taught at Sauder, and it's encouraged as well.
Thank you for that. And yeah, before we go on to the next question, Vivian, maybe you'll want to select an audience one. I just want to comment that, Soroush and Melissa have given back and actually come back and helped our classes in so many different ways. I can remember distinctly Melissa actually being one of the judges for our cases in my first residency as a professional MBA student. So, they definitely are true to their word, and it really kind of goes to show that alumni connection that is still there and is fostered throughout their entire time. So I thank you, Soroush and Melissa, for not just coming out on Saturday, but of course, coming out and helping us any other day of the week here at the program in the school. Okay, Vivian, over to you.
Thanks, Kevin. And we hope we have some more new alumni connections that might come back in a few years' time after this. So Melissa and I were just talking that she had come to an in-person event a few years ago before she was thinking. So you never know, in a few years' time, it could be you. So we have a few more audience questions. One is from Sean, and Sean asks, what would you say is the most useful aspect of your MBA learnings? Something you use frequently in your current positions. So I think this would be a great question to hear from both Melissa and from Soroush.
I just want to add to the previous answer I made about the alumni. I want to say we can't get our hands enough on them, and there's definitely a shortage of alumni from this school. So if you guys join the school, there's definitely a lot of interest on the hiring side after you graduate. So back to your question, Vivian. So can you repeat it one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is the most useful aspect of your MBA learning? Something you use frequently in your current position?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the most valuable part for me, at least, it was understanding that, and this is something we did in the core part of the program. I was understanding how everything, all the facets of the business, how they work together and how they impact each other, and understanding that you're not really focusing on one thing, you have to focus on multiple things at the same time, and really understanding the cause and effects between those different functions, and not necessarily being siloed in one facet, thinking, okay, well, I'm just focused on finance, or I'm focused on marketing, or if you're building a business, really, you have to take care of all those different aspects of the business. And there's a lot of dependence. And I would say in the core program, when we were doing it, there was a lot of emphasis on this as well, not to be, or when we did the case studies, we always looked at it from, even if like it was a finance case or if it was a marketing case, we would look at all different aspects of the case that could be relevant. And we repeated, of course, that method for 2 years. So this is now completely entrenched in my brain, and that's something that I use every day, understanding that those dependencies are there, and you have to look at them very much holistically, and also try to grow the team, your team, that way that understands everything is connected and interrelated. And if you want to succeed, really, you have to look after all those things. So I would say, in a nutshell, that's one of the most important lessons that I learned from the school.
That's awesome. Thank you, Soroush. And Melissa, do you have anything to add about like what was your most valuable learning that you still use every day?
I think just to add to what Soroush said, one thing that I learned that it was very valuable was the value of networking. When I say that coming from an engineering background, it wasn't something that I was used to or knew the benefit of, but it was really during the program that I understood like it's so important to have the community and have that network. And ever since then, I mean, we are in touch with our classmates in a WhatsApp group still to this date after 4 years. And we're always trying to meet up with each other. And also, if anybody has a question, they put in the chat group and everybody's there to help. So I would say that really take advantage of the networking sessions, and they're extremely, extremely valuable.
Amazing. The power of a networking is, of course, super important. And I'm sure you'll see, like, you've probably used it a lot in the context of the startup world, bouncing ideas off of each other and also getting new sources of funding and connections. So that is definitely a very common skill that people have mentioned has been one of the most important ones they learned from an MBA program. Thank you for sharing that.
Great. So we have a question from the chat box from Shrivat. And this question is for Soroush. Soroush, Shrivat says, the products you create at Novar Technologies are truly groundbreaking. So when did you decide to pursue a CFA in your journey as an entrepreneur? And how is it synchronized with your MBA from Stoddard to help you succeed? Yeah, so if you can ask us, if I can ask, like why did you decide to do a CFA also?
Great question. Yeah. So when I graduated, actually from Stoddard in 2013, I wanted to focus on my career in finance. So I want to go into investment banking, and one of the things you have to do, I think, as part of trying to break into investment banking, is doing your CFA exams and getting the CFA charter holder title. So I started that process. I did 2 exams, and then this opportunity at Novar came around, and I joined forces with my co-founder. So by that time, I already had passed the first 2 exams, which were pretty difficult exams, I should say. So later on, I decided to just take the 3rd exam and finish the program there. I got to say, I mean, so the question, I think, more relevant question maybe is investment banking versus startup entrepreneurship. For me, the difference was investment banking is a great career. It's rewarded as well for the hard work that the bankers do. But for me, it was a bit dry, and it was a bit too much of Excel sheets and presentations. I wanted to work on something that I could feel and see and touch, and be close to the front lines rather than just being in the boardrooms and doing presentations. So that was the deciding factor for me. I did a short gig in investment banking. I didn't like it, and I thought I can go join Novarc or join forces with my co-founders and start Novarc, and also use the technical background that I have to help further accelerate the product and the company.
Great, very, very cool. I love that journey and kind of being able to kind of pivot from one industry to another. Melissa, maybe I can, before I pass it off to Vivian, maybe I can ask you a question too. What sort of sparked your interest in really going into that tech field? Because you had come from a very, technical engineering background, chemical, pharmaceuticals. Was there anything that you took or learned about during your MBA that really pushed you to look at tech and software before going to Novarc?
Yeah, so I knew also from the program, I knew I wanted to do marketing, but I really wasn't sure in which industry. One thing that really helped was the internship. So we got to have this 3 or 4 month internship during the MBA program. And that's when I got an internship at a software company. And it was by chance, I was just trying out different things. So I came across this opportunity, I had an interview, I was offered the job. So I just took it and I really enjoyed it based on that experience. I worked there for 3 months and then afterwards they asked me if I could stay on part-time and I did. And to me, like the tech sector is very exciting. It's always changing. I mean, there's so much hype around it for a reason. I mean, it is very exciting. And that kind of like opened my eyes to it. And based on that experience, I knew that I wanted to stay in the tech sector afterwards.
Very cool. Yeah, those experiential components that are built into our programs, like they do help people explore different options and different careers. So yeah, thank you for sharing your insight into that, Melissa. Vivian, do you see any questions that you'd like to ask?
Yeah, there's quite a few audience questions. So this one's from Ramey, and he's asking, what are the challenges that faces the company now?
So I would say a startup faces all sorts of challenges at different stages. There is no shortage of challenges. You're always under resourced for the amount of work you want to do. At this point in time, we are facing a couple of different challenges. One is the supply chain disruptions that are happening around the world. There's a big shortage of chips, and they're definitely hard to get material in. And navigating those supply chain intricacies is very, very difficult. And then the COVID, during COVID and post-COVID, another challenge was, of course, how we tailored our sales and marketing efforts, which also Melissa was a big part of it. How do we go about selling our product without actually having the ability maybe to meet the customers in person? That was a major challenge, and that one we solved by using different tactics, including live presentations, live demos, or leveraging a relationship of our partners. But that's something that's still out there, and we're limited by the travel restrictions that are out there, and we have to actively find new ways of getting in front of customers and showing them what our product can do, and winning them over. So on both sides, I would say this is the second year of COVID, and those challenges are still out there.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those moving challenges that you don't know whether it's going to get fixed or whether it's just going to continue. So thanks for sharing a bit more insight on that. Melissa, would you have anything to say about challenges on the marketing side that kind of is like regular on your desk these days?
Oh yeah, after COVID, we had a lot of challenges. We actually used to go to a lot of events and trade shows before that, but then COVID happened and everything got canceled. So seriously, all the traveling and all the events got canceled. So we just had to rethink our whole marketing strategy in the beginning of the year. So there were so many things, I mean, it's still going on, but we managed to move mainly to digital. So, but it's an ongoing process. We're still trying to adjust to all the new changes. And another, I would say, the ongoing challenge is expanding internationally. I mean, it's very exciting, but it has its own challenges, again, with all the travel restrictions and all the events being canceled at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Again, one of those moving challenges that I guess we just have to continually adapt. And I think you being in the startup world, in some ways, like it's psychologically, you're used to the pivots, right? So like, I guess you're just kind of like pivoting a lot these days.
I would say the resiliency we gained in the first few years definitely helped with being able to manage the disruptions that COVID brought in, for sure. Absolutely.
Kevin, any other questions you'd like to pull from the audience?
Yeah, there's a great one here from Abhilasha. They say, UBC offers plethora of opportunities for students, which can be overwhelming sometimes. So if you go back and change one thing about your MBA experience, what would that be? Maybe I'll put it to Soroush first and then Melissa.
Yeah, one thing that I would definitely change or spend more time on was the networking and the networking part. I think maybe because I was working full time, of course, we got all these we were on a 3-week schedules, and we had to have the group meetings, and we had to have the group assignments, submissions, the exams and all that. It was a bit, there were opportunities definitely for networking, but I think I could have attended to more of those opportunities and maybe get to know the alumni from the previous years a lot better, and maybe get to know the full-time cohort that we were with, the students in that cohort better, and that was something that I think I would have changed if I go back, because a lot of those guys now, when I come across them, and we even like graduated in the same year, so we know we had the same profs, we took the same assignments, but I feel like I wish we could have spent more time with them at that time, rather than just being alumni from the same school. So,
good piece of advice. Good piece of advice. And Melissa, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think if I could go back, I would better prioritize what I wanted to do, because there's so many things happening in the program. There's so many opportunities. I mean, you have the classes and projects. There are all these traveling opportunities. For example, we had MBA games, the Harvard Business School trip. There's so many things. So I spent a lot of time on the projects and the courses, and I missed some of those opportunities. And I knew that some of my classmates went to those, and they really enjoyed the process. So I think if I could go back, I would really figure out what I want to prioritize on, and then really like better plan for the program that way. Like I would focus more on those experiences and the networking, as Soroush mentioned.
Great.
if I may add one more thing, Kevin, I think the other piece that's important is like that I wish I done before I did the program was knowing exactly where I want to go. Because later I understood, for example, that there's timing involved with starting career in investment banking and or even management consulting, and you had to go through those timings. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to break in those careers. So, say having a clear picture of which, and I know it's hard because you haven't done the program and you don't know about these career paths. So, but if you can spend the time before and like understand which career path you want to choose and understand like the timings of it, I think it would really help you succeed in getting where you want to go.
Yeah, that's an amazing piece of advice. Thank you so much, both of you, for giving that. I see that we actually have quite a few questions to go here in the audience. So Vivian, would you like to take the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one looks like it might be a question for Soroush, and it's from Sean. He asks, was your co-founder an expert in welding, or did you learn about welding as an electrical engineer? So that's like really about like, how did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, so my co-founder, Reza, he's the original inventor of the machine. He's the CTO of the company, and he had 30 plus years of experience now in robotic welding. And he came up with the original idea of the machine. And where I helped him was more on the cobotic side and how we would make it a cobot. So I would say he knew a lot, and I had to learn a lot about welding, basically from scratch.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And then now we have a specific question as well. This one's from Melissa. So it's from Abhilasha. And so Abhilasha asks, being a software engineer myself, I'm curious to know how challenging it was to switch from technology or like, I guess, engineering to marketing post MBA.
It definitely has its challenges coming from a completely different background, but the good thing about the MBA program is that everybody comes from different backgrounds. So you're not just thrown in there with a bunch of people who are experts in the business field. So everybody's kind of in the same boat. And the program is really designed that way to make you feel comfortable and make sure that everybody gets on the same course. So I think it was challenging, but I think the program did a great job of really facilitating it to make that switch.
Awesome. Kevin, any more questions you'd like to pull from the audience?
Yeah, we probably have time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions before we kind of head off into the breakout rooms with the admissions managers. But this is actually a good question because it really dives into this entrepreneurial journey. How does one know that it's time to expand business beyond just the home country? So how do you know when it's time? I think many companies have this goal of being international and expanding, but like, how do you know when it's the right time? And maybe Soroush, you'd like to start us off.
That's a great question. So there's no, I think, one silver bullet that can answer the question. It's a matter of understanding your product and your market. But I tell you this, you don't want to go too early because that means your resources are going to be stretched very, very thin. And it's not a matter of just, of course, closing a sale internationally and getting money for it, but it's a matter of also shipping a product to different jurisdictions, whether it's certification requirements. There's also how you're going to be supporting that customer, and what you really want, especially in the growth phase, you want to have successful customers, so they would be references. So that will then further accelerate the growth. And if you as a startup, you of course are under resourced, so you don't want to go too early, and you want to make sure when you're going, you have thought through all the different aspects of that expansion, and you have a financial plan that would support that. And on the other side of it, I would say the Canadian and US markets are definitely great markets to start with. And the US market is very close to Canada. It's almost same time zone, same language. So we already have a 10 times Canadian market right beside us that we can target and expand into, and really hone those different aspects of the business, like customer support, like shipping across the border, taxes, like all different sorts of complexities that come with working internationally before you start going outside of Canada and US to different continents.
Very, very cool. And Melissa, in expanding the company internationally, in terms of like marketing, how do you deal with some of those like different intercultural differences, or are there many when you're talking about like robotics and kind of this industry?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's definitely very different. There's so many cultural differences, and the way like different countries sell in different countries is very different. For example, North America is usually like very benefit based. For example, like some parts of Europe, like Germany, they're very like technical aspects are important to them. So it's very different. And one thing that we keep saying in Novarc is that it's important to own your own backyard before moving to international markets. So something that we've been doing is to really like make sure that we have a solid customer base in North America, have those success stories, and then based on that, then move on to other countries. And something else that's been really helpful is having partners in those countries. I mean, there are language barriers or culture barriers. So having those local partners in different countries is really helpful to really like give you the insight that you need, and also to be able to sell and distribute your products in international markets.
Wonderful, thanks. And I think, if I could just like do a little tack on here, is just, I think you've both have been very, very humble and kind of understanding the fact that your product is amazing. Like it is one of the only type of its kind in the world. So I think that really helps a lot, besides just the excellent work that you're putting in too. Vivian, any questions that you see from the audience?
Yeah, and I just have to say, like, your product makes me want to try welding. I just like it's the way you guys tell it.
Yeah,
you're
you
an amazing
should.
storyteller. I'm like, I want to try that.
With it on week 1.
Yeah. So I do have a question for you, and it is that you're both amazing alumni, and you've come back to speak to our students. Soroush, you hired Melissa. Can you speak to the alumni community and what motivates you to come back to the school?
I would say over the last 7 years, I've seen Sauder becoming the top, I think, school when it comes to business degrees and MBA programs. I've seen the quality of the alumni that have been graduating from the program. Part of it is, of course, there's the 2 reasons I think for me. One is to give back to the school and help in any way I can with students who want to join. That's the selfless part of it. And then the selfish part of it is, of course, we want to grow the business, and we always need talented individuals that help us do that. So we want to be up front and say we would like you to join us if your passion aligns with what we're doing. We would love to have you on our team. So keep us on the radar as you go through the program. Keep in touch, and definitely we want to hear from you.
It's amazing. Melissa, you want to say anything about the alumni network and what keeps you coming back to Sauder?
Yeah, sure. So I already touched on this a couple of times, but I think it's really important to mention again that this network is really, really valuable. I really value this community. It has helped me a lot throughout my journey. I got a lot of help from it, and I would love to be still involved in the community and help whoever I can in this journey as well, because I know it's challenging, but I would love to be able to help in any way, because I got the help that I needed from this community.
It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Well, I think that actually is probably the best way we can sort of end today's questioning. I do want to take this time to really thank Soroush and Melissa for coming out. They're spending a sunny Saturday on what is bound to be a pretty wet weekend. So I'm very happy that they're able to take the one remaining hour of sunlight that we might have in September to really come out and speak with our prospective students. I think it goes without saying that you both are amazing alumni. Again, Novar Technologies has come back and worked with our students on a number of different occasions. And Soroush, you did point out that there are always, you're looking to hire. So I just want to say on behalf of the graduate school, thank you, Soroush. Thank you, Melissa. We really appreciate your time in coming out today.
Of course, Kevin, anytime, and thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was really exciting to be here again.
And now I'll pass it off to my colleague, Natalie, who will finish us off today.
Thanks again, panelists, for joining us today and for offering your very valuable time for today's session. And thank you everyone for logging in and being our guests for our fireside chats today. And with that, I would like to draw everyone's attention to our chat box, where we'll have a series of links in the chat panel for you all to connect with our respective programs' breakout rooms. So if you wanted to chat about the MBAN MBA MBAN dual degree, please make sure to click on the appropriate link where you'll chat with me. For the MM and BMM, you'll be connecting with Kevin. And for the PMBA MBA, you'll be connecting with Vivian. We look forward to seeing all of you in a more intimate setting where we can engage in some rich discussions, answer any questions you have, and support you as you gear up to submit your applications in the upcoming weeks. Thank you so much again for logging in. We look forward to seeing you all at the next best time. Stay safe, everyone, and see you shortly.